Online Research Skills, Part 1 by Justina Smith.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. Before we really get into the meat of the presentation, I always like to start and get my brain flowing and jumping and moving. So we're going to start with a riddle. In our riddle, we have a farmer, a cat, a dog, and a mouse. All of the animals and the farmer are on side A of a riverbank. The farmer has at his disposal a boat with which to transport his animals from side A to side B. The farmer must always be in the boat on every trip. The cat and the dog can never be left on either side of the bank at the same time because the dog will chase the cat. And the cat and the mouse cannot be left on either side of the bank because the cat will chase the mouse. So, the dilemma at hand. How do we get all the animals from side A to side B safely? There is a very simple solution to solve this riddle, and that is through the use of heuristics. It's a big word for something very simple. It's a common sense set of rules that we use to increase the probability of solving an issue. In the riddle, the issue is getting them all safely from side A to side B. In online research skills, the issue at hand is how to manage the results that we get in a general web search when doing research. In order to understand why this is an issue, we need to take a trip back in time to 1990. Why 1990, you wonder? Because in 1990, there was no internet. In 1990, when you did research, you went to a school library or to a public library. You used the Dewey Decimal System and accessed a card catalog in order to find things such as encyclopedias, dictionaries, periodicals, magazines, and newspapers that had your topic at hand. Fast forward to 2011, and everything is at your fingertips. Literally. Anything you want to know, a few types on the keypad, hit enter, and voila, 2,957 results later. So, again, we come back to our issue. How do we manage all of the data that we get when we perform online searches? There is a simple equation that we can employ in which to use, much like a heuristic, that will help us get to where we want to be, to target our results, to get to the meat of the issue. To get valid results, you need sources that are reliable and targeted searching. First, what we're going to do, there are a lot of different sources on the internet. How do you determine which is good and which is bad? Each source that you get returned, you have to review critically, which means you have to apply some time and some thought to what you're doing. Some examples of sources that you will commonly find, and the sources that we're talking about are the different types of internet sites that you will encounter. Some of the most common ones are .com, .net, .org, .edu, .gov, and .mil. Some of these are pretty standard, and .com does not mean or stand for communication. What .com means? It means it's a commercial site, like a store or something of that nature. .net is a network site. .org is a non-commercial site. .edu, pretty self-explanatory, connects you to universities and colleges. .gov, again, government-based websites. and .mil. These are sites that the military supports, such as the Pentagon. When you're doing a search and you're looking at all of these sources, out of these 6 that we have listed, which ones would you say are the most valid? The ones that are most valid you're going to find on education sites, government sites, military sites. Those are your top 3 choices in what I would suggest. If you go down the list, .org is also a valid choice. .net and .com can be used, but you must critically evaluate the information on the site to make sure that there is no bias. However, depending on what you're writing, you may want that bias present. So now that we've covered the sources part of the equation, we are going to look at the other side and how to actually target or narrow down your results when performing a search. Targeted searches use different things. They use what are called Boolean symbols. It's a fun name for very common symbols that all of us use every day. We have the plus, the minus, the word and, the word or, open parentheses and close parentheses, and we also have what are known as wildcards, which can consist of the asterisk and the question mark. When doing an online search, just as an example of how these Boolean symbols come into play, if you go to any website, and you can pick your favorite because there are a ton out there, you will get a vast return of results. As an example, my personal favorite to use as a web search is Google. Just as an example, pick a common phrase. What I've picked is the Pledge of Allegiance, and yes, I am abbreviating. When you put that in the search engine, you get returned 2,120,000 results. And this is in less than 10 seconds. Now, with the use of Boolean symbols included in my search, I can narrow those results quite significantly. With using parentheses around the Pledge of Allegiance, typing in and putting in the word freedom, my results drop to 1,380,000. Not a huge drop, but it's enough. It counts. Now, as I continue, if I add to this first string here, if I leave an and put in freedom of speech in parentheses, plus education, and then in parentheses add the word recitation, my results are then 15,900. A very huge jump from 2 million. Now, I'm still not narrowed it down enough. So again, if I add one more Boolean symbol, the plus sign, and the phrase legal concerns, I then drop to 1,370. This is just a brief example of how Boolean symbols come into play when doing a targeted research project. Instead of going through 5,000 or 2 million results, I've got it to a workable number. And then I must use my sites, my .edu, my .gov, my .net, my .org, and find out which ones of these are the most valid for the research at hand. I know that I've thrown a lot of information at you, but I'm getting ready to throw just a little bit more. There are a lot of different search engines that you can use on the internet. Again, I use Google, MSN, Yahoo, Bing, Flipdog, Cool. There are tons. Whichever one you choose is completely up to you. For those of you who have been watching this video and wondering what happened with the farmer and the cat and the dog and the mouse, well, you're going to have to think about that one until we get to part 2 of online research skills. Thank you for watching.